Hi everyone, back here at Q Live with Karen Janowski.
Hey there.
And she is one of the spotlight speakers this year at Q, and she has been working her tail off.
So fun. This
So
is
fun.
such a blast to be here. From Boston, 3 hours. 3 hours, okay. But such a blast to be here because it just snowed on Tuesday. I mean, this is sun, palm trees, blue sky, what's not to love, plus all the great learning that's happening here. It's fantastic.
Speaking of great learning, I had the pleasure of going to one of your sessions this morning, and it was a packed house. People sitting on the floors, people lining the walls, and they were there to learn about what you had to say about universal learning design and assistive technology and helping struggling readers, which is hugely important, especially here in California. We have lots of struggling readers, and it's such a foundational skill.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you a little bit about UDL, Universal Learning Design. It's something that I don't know very much about, but I've heard a lot about in the last couple years, and I suspect that many people out there don't know a lot about UDL either. So if you could, just kind of give us a little spiel about UDL.
I love to share. It's one of my passions, is Universal Design for Learning, and it's a way to reach all learners. It's what we want to do is we want to think about our instructional methods. Are the methods we're using reaching everybody in our classroom? So we want to think, when we think Universal Design for Learning, we think about multiple methods of engagement, multiple methods of presentation, and multiple methods of expression. Are we giving kids just one way to demonstrate their learning? Are we giving them one way to get engaged in our content? Or do we provide a variety of options and give them choices which then allow them to choose the way that helps them to learn best? The other thing to think about, there's really a lot to it, but the simplest ideas to think about are it's proactive. As you're planning your lessons, as you're planning your instruction, what you want to do is embed the multiple methods. You want to embed choices
within the
proactively. You don't do it after the fact or reactively, which is, I think, one of the big ways why it's different from differentiated instruction. So you do it proactively and you acknowledge the variability of the students in your classroom. That's really a huge concept. To recognize that there are all types of learners in our classrooms. Just like there are all kinds of learners who are our teachers, there's all kinds of learners who are our students as well. So acknowledging variability allows us to think about universally designing our instruction to reach everyone. And it came out of the field of architecture originally. You probably know universal design.
I heard you mention this, and that was a huge surprise to me, actually.
So back in the 80s, that concept of universal design became quite big. And when what do you think of when you think of universal design in architecture? What are some examples? Ramps.
Oh, yeah, like accessibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Push buttons for doors.
Right.
Lever door handles. Who benefits when, picture yourself carrying a child or carrying bags of groceries. Those lever door handles, everybody benefits from. Ramps, everybody benefits from. So it allows us to reach more people that way, more of our students. So it went from the field of architecture to the field of education.
That's amazing. What a great story to know the background of where it came from, and it actually makes so much sense. You talked a little bit about how differentiation is sometimes an after-the-fact thing that teachers plan for, and I can relate to that. Sometimes on a lesson plan, differentiation is kind of the last box you fill in, and it's easy to forget. Sometimes we have great plans for differentiating for our students, but in the heat of that lesson, it just falls by the wayside. So kind of what I'm understanding from you is with UDL, you are proactive, you start that from the beginning, and then there's no way that it falls by the wayside.
Right, exactly.
Right?
It's not a second thought. It's just a different way of thinking to reach everybody, so you're embedding those UDL principles into your instruction. So it's just, it becomes second nature because, normally we think about just, for example, using a worksheet. Well, for many students, paper worksheets are the disability. If you looked at any of those work samples that I showed, I mean, some of the kids can't even read their own writing. The paper has no meaning to them. And if you have a physical disability or if you're visually impaired, paper doesn't work for you. So when we universally design things, we are offering choices and we're giving kids the tool that works best for them. You set up what is the task, what is it we want them to accomplish, what do we want them to achieve, and then we think about what tools will help us then achieve that outcome. So it's such an important concept for us as educators to consider when we want to reach all the learners in our classroom.
Powerful way to learn and a powerful way to
Yeah.
teach. Now, there was something that you said in your presentation today that really stuck with me. A lot of people have seen the graphics and talked and heard about the difference between equity and equality. But today, you took that kind of a step further and you talked about equity versus equality, and then you talked about liberation.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit about that and what you meant by that? Because I thought that was very powerful.
So there's a really awesome graphic that I used. So when we think of equality, what we're doing, and the graphic itself shows 3 different people of different heights watching a baseball game. Well, they're all at different heights with this fence up to here, so there's 2 who are shorter can't see anything. So that's equality. They are all doing the same thing. But like Rick Lavoie says, equality and fairness doesn't mean giving everybody the same. It means giving everybody what they need. So the equity piece was then the second and the third person who were shorter were given stools to then stand on. So now they could see the fence. The liberation part is, let's remove the fence altogether. So then there's no obstacle. So when we're in our classrooms, we want to think about what are the fences, what are those brick walls that make learning impossible. And so we want to consider that and remove those obstacles, and then that's liberating for those kids who could not use the methods that are currently being used.
Absolutely. I love that. Really
Yeah,
cool. I wish we could put
so
the graphic
powerful.
up. Can we get the graphic? No, but that would be amazing, and I'm sure you can find it if you just do a quick search
I can
for
send it to you.
Perfect. I love it.
And it was, somebody did tweet it out, so yeah, on the Q17 hashtag.
Speaking of resources, you have so much great information about UDL, and I'm learning so much from just talking to you today. But if I want to go seek out more information about UDL on my own and kind of learn about it, and I'm just the Lone Ranger teacher, right? I'm not really, my district isn't really giving me professional development on it. Where can I go find more about UDL?
So that's a great question. There actually is a lot that's available online, but the originators it was an organization out of Wakefield, Massachusetts, right near where I live, called CAST. And if you go to the cast.org website, that is a wealth of information and a wealth of tools to use to help yourself develop universally designed curriculum. I also do have to put in a little plug because
Please.
I created a wiki with Joyce Valenza a few years ago, and it's called the UDL Tech Toolkit Wiki. And what it is it's free tech tools by different areas. So for example, there's a page of all free tools for writing, all free tools for reading, all free tools for graphic organizers, all free digital multimedia tools. So there's tools, different free tools. So you go to you just Google UDL Tech Toolkit Wiki, and the very first link will take you there because teachers all over the world are using this resource. But share it because it's all free tools that are universally designed that help our students.
Sounds like a treasure chest
successful.
of UDL
It's
resources to
it's
me.
all about independence, because one of the things I do notice as an educator is oftentimes in special ed we're promoting dependence, not intentionally, but it is a byproduct when we have a student dictate to an adult for whatever reason. Maybe they can't get their ideas on paper, so we oftentimes will have them dictate to an adult, or we'll oftentimes read grade level content to them. That way they become dependent on adults, and the technology tools, assistive technology, educational technology tools, bypass those challenges and promote success and independence. It's so key.
That's actually right where I wanted to go next with you. Today you shared some really cool assistive technology tools. I know you have a million of them, and teachers can go and look at that UDL Tech Toolkit. But if you were to talk about maybe just one or two, or one tool that might help our teachers tomorrow in the classroom, help their learners, everybody access, what would you recommend to them? What's one of your favorite tools?
I have to mention two. One is the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension, because what it does is it offers free text-to-speech in a Google Doc, so that's important as part of the editing process. Listen to your work read back to you. And then it also will read any online content. And what it does is it doesn't just read it, it highlights every word in one color and the sentence in another color. So some kids have difficulty visually tracking that information. So this way they can adjust the rate of speed, they can address the voice that they use to listen to it. It's really quite phenomenal. And it has other features in the premium version for teachers, which is so fantastic. And the other one, very often our kids who struggle with reading and writing often struggle with reading comprehension. And one of the tools that I absolutely have to recommend, and I mentioned it this morning, and I don't work for the company, but it's such an awesome scaffolded UDL supported tool, is called Actively Learn. And often, because we want to make sure kids understand what they're reading, we want to understand their, the content. So oftentimes we'll have kids read or watch a video, and then we ask them questions at the end. Some of our kids really struggle with that. They might have working memory issues, they can't hold on to the important information, or they might have processing speed issues, or they might just not know what is the most important information to really pay attention to in the article.
Right.
So with Actively Learn, what it allows you to do is embed your questions throughout the article itself.
Oh, wow.
So, exactly.
So they don't have to go between two
Yeah,
resources, which is
right.
very difficult for students.
Yeah, and they don't have to remember it, they don't have to go back. Some of our struggling readers, when they read one time, are you kidding, you're making me go back in the text and find the evidence? That's very challenging, they don't want to do it. This way, that struggle is removed. We are removing that brick wall, that obstacle for the student, and helping them to be successful. They can combine it with text-to-speech so that they can listen to it. So these are really important accommodations while they're getting the remediation as well. And again, everybody, Actively Learn is a scaffolded UDL tool because everybody benefits.
So there you have it, Actively Learn in Google Read and Write. Two tools recommended for reaching all learners,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Two great assistive technology tools. And you have many, many more to share. And I think it's really powerful to talk to you because speaking with you helps me realize how important technology is to reaching all learners, right? It's not just a shiny tool. It's not just something fun. It's really something that has the power to change how kids learn. So
I'm so glad you make that point because some people do say it's not about the tool, but it actually, for kids with disabilities, kids with variabilities, it is about the tool. And it's about effective implementation in an engaging way. It's not just throwing the tool at them. It's having an educational rationale for using a tool in an effective, motivating, engaging way. And actually one more thing I do want to mention too, Judy Willis. Can I just talk about Judy Willis?
Please.
She's a neurologist, MD neurologist, who actually went into the classroom. She became a teacher. She's from California.
Okay.
She has such a wealth of information about the neuroscience of learning, and she talks about joyful learning, that we learn through joy, and she's all about executive function. So follow her. She's on Twitter. She writes for Edutopia. She is phenomenal, and she knows the brain better than anyone because she's a neurologist.
right.
So she talks about the importance of joyful learning, so using the tools to promote joy, to promote curiosity, to promote engagement, and bypass those learning challenges.
Well, thank you for that recommendation. And before we go today, I do want to talk about something else that is in your wheelhouse.
Oh, right.
You're an organizer of EdCamp, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Can you let everybody know what EdCamp is really quickly? Many teachers might not be aware, and how to get involved with that.
So EdCamps are free professional unconferences held on Saturdays. I'm actually one of the organizers of EdCamp Boston. We just had our 7th EdCamp last Saturday. Microsoft is wonderful to donate this gorgeous building where we hold it. And we had over 250 people. And so what it is it's free professional development based on conversations that attendees, participants want to engage in.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Whatever. And we had a board filled with ideas, and we had, to me it was the seventh one, but the conversations were the best we've ever had. They were really phenomenal. And I'm also an EdCamp Access organizer. I realized after attending EdCamps that we really need to further address the needs of those of us who work with struggling learners. So we developed EdCamp Access. So we're having our 5th annual EdCamp Access April 8th, and there are other EdCamp Accesses that are happening in other parts of the country as well. So EdCamps, if you love to learn, if you love innovation, if you love conversations with other like-minded education professionals, it is the best free professional development other than Twitter.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks.
Karen, President of EdTech Solutions, and here is our spotlight speaker this year at CUE. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
Alicia, it's been great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope people have found it helpful.
Absolutely.
And you can follow me on Twitter at KarenJan and ask any questions. I love to support teachers because then what it's doing is you're supporting your students. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.